I started to reflect upon my life and every single Monday because I realized that I was intrigued by the tool that I was given, the tools that were out there. You start to kind of have a different frame around productivity.
Investing the time into scheduling your life gives you the freedom to do all of the things that you've always wanted to do, but have convinced yourself you don't have the time for. Welcome to Evolve Ventures, where we are making evolution possible for growth-minded humans through vulnerable lessons, stories, and tech. I am your host, Bianca Thomas.
I'm your host, Emilia Smith. Welcome back for another episode. Hopefully you liked our last episode. This one we are going to be for episode 123, digging into Motivational Monday. So we are on the Motivational Monday streak. We're for it. Hopefully you're here for it. What we are going to be talking about today, and hopefully you join us in on this conversation, is the biggest hack to a productive week. So for those of you who maybe love or hate Mondays, hopefully if you're on the train where you've already listened to our past Monday episodes, you feel the vibes, transferring of energy is already getting you off to a good start. So if you haven't, welcome to the train of Mondays. But to that extent, so I want to dig into a story really quick that kind of takes us back to version 1.0 Emilia, where she was actually, I remember kindergarten. I think it was kindergarten, or maybe just around that like first grade, second grade, third grade kind of time
That's
period.
version 1.0.
1.0, right? 1.0 in this specific productive week, hacks, all that jazz. And the reason why I want to bring us back here, because I want each one of you going back to the old version 1.0 of you. Because when we look back, we can actually see some of those things that have stayed very consistent with our ways in which we start our Mondays. And I remember going back to that time, little backpack, getting off the bus, and it was our first day of school. And I remember I used to get so excited for the first day of school. It brought me a lot of anxiety too, but it definitely got me really excited for this one sheer reason, because I knew that we would all be receiving agendas. And I was that person that saw my agenda as the greatest gift that this school could have ever produced for me. Why? Because I remember the first part, I would look at this agenda, and if you picture probably as thick as your thumb in terms of pages that it had in it, the front cover was a holographic, always. And I was for whatever reason, so intrigued by holographics. So you change it, and if you don't know what a holographic is, imagine a picture of something that's intriguing, whether it be like a sunset, and then you turn it a little bit, the picture, and then all of a sudden it starts to be like a sunrise. So in real time, this holographic on the top of our agendas was so inspiring. It was bewildering to an extent. So I was all for the agendas. I got so jazzed up. And every single year, I even remember the distinct smell, look, the tabs that were in there, to a weird extent where I know this is full-blown weirdo mode, right? So stick with me here. So it started to fascinate me about these agendas that we would get every single year. And so I started to kind of plug into okay, well, why are we getting one every single year? Does that mean I need to finish? And it was I honored this agenda so deeply because it was given to me. And I was wait a second, I don't even want to write in this. It's so perfect. And, fast forward every single year, I eventually had to use these agendas instead of just putting them up in a glass box or a shelf, right? We actually had to use these. And turns out when you actually use these tools for what they were created for, turns out you can actually be ridiculously productive. And so while we're kind of cheesing and laughing, I really want to bring this down into each one of your life, right? So what that agenda did for me was that it actually gave me the structure that I really needed to help me understand this giant concept that was shared to me by so many different people. That was time, right? When you're younger, you don't really have a concept of time. When you're younger, time, how you spend or invest it looks different for everyone. You might not get so excited to open up your agendas. You might not even be excited to go to school. how you spend your time is a direct contributor to like what you're interested in, what you're curious about. And when it comes to Mondays, that can be either like the best gift of your entire life, or it can be the literal bane of your existence. And we've said that, but do we really look at that from a microscopic lens? So let's zoom in. So what that agenda did for me is it provided the guardrails for my creativity to understand how important my time actually was. And fast forward years over years, I started to personally invest in agendas. And now I don't have any sort of hard copy. I strictly just live and breathe by my Google Calendar. But here's what I want to bring into this episode is that one agenda, right? That one series of agenda led to so many different agendas. And I have a closet that has like a full stack on them because I loved keeping the agendas. Because what it did, it helped me reflect. It helped me look at how I spent my time, how I invested my life. You only get one life, and YOLO is a real thing. But when you look at it from a perspective of, I started to reflect upon my life and every single Monday because I realized that I was intrigued by the tool that I was given, the tools that were out there. You start to kind of have a different frame around productivity. You start to realize that when intriguement can start you off by a tool, like an agenda, you realize that, okay, this long-term relationship that you have with a tool or something that can help you be more productive and look at your time and calendar differently, you start to realize that this tool are the guardrails, but you, my friend, are the creator. So to kind of pull this all together, my intriguement with my agenda is little Emilia 1.0. She having this weird obsession with agendas and stationery and everything, I swear to you, has formed me into at 27 years old, one of the most hardworking, dedicated, productive humans that I guarantee you'll meet. And I can say that and not be bashful now because like it is what it is. And here's the thing. I let that intriguement lead me into being one of the most productive persons that will ever exist. Why? Because I let that tool help me to be the creator of my life. And so for each one of you, the lesson in here is if you can be intrigued, if you can figure out a way how to develop a positive long-term relationship with your time, specifically with respects to calendar hygiene and calendar optimization management, right? How you spend your time and what you spend that on, that will be the biggest hack to not only a productive week, but a productive life.
So, what would you say to people, like, how do they actually start doing this? I know this is a bite-sized episode and we need to start wrapping up soon, but what would you say from your just years of practice and studying this and what you implement now? What are like 3 to 5 simple tools that people can start implementing today to become great at their calendar optimization?
The first tool, get clear. And we actually just did a digital asset that I'm excited to be able to share with our community and help anyone out there that struggles with this, right? How to hack into productivity. Number 1, get clear on what your values are. If you don't know what your values are, likely you're going to be like a sailboat drifting around with no rudder. You're going to be just drifting around with the tides of what everyone else's needs are, right? So get clear on what your values are. Great way to do that. What was that?
What's a rudder?
Rudder is like, so if you're looking at like a sailboat, all you see is like the boat on top of the water. But what you don't see is that there's a rudder, aka a piece of wood that goes straight down to the bottom of the lake that sticks out. And the rudder kind of is the pivotal point where if the sail were to go up and the rudder were to go down, that helps with the sailboat turning, if you will. So a rudder is like a directional compass that helps when the sailboat catches the wind to move forward. The rudder is very similar to like the I've never had to explain this before. This is interesting. Back to my sailing athletic days, where it helps to pivot the boat into a certain direction.
Okay, so it navigates.
Helps to not only navigate, but actually allow the water to push the boat in a specific direction that it wants to go into.
Okay.
Okay, so you get clear on what your values are. Okay, if you don't know what your values are, calendar optimization calendar management, how you invest your time, that won't ever matter. Okay. So get clear on what your values are, get clear on what your goals are. If you're clear on what your goals are, your values are going to they're going to be a lot more important to be the boundary and the guardrail around how and who you spend your time with. And so when you have a productive week, you know it. You feel good about what you've done. You feel great on the other side of things. You can actually look back and feel accomplished. When you don't have a productive week, you realize that there was no guardrails, aka you're just kind of like drifting around with the tails of time and you have no rudder that actually kept you on point. So number 1, get clear on your values. Number 2, get clear on your goals. And number 3, I want to say, and for the feminines out there, they're going to love this, but for the masculines, I don't know how much y'all are going to love this. Leverage colors. I know that sounds so trivial, but like one of the biggest hacks that I've had is color coding things. And that brought so much joy into my life. Even now, if you were to look at my calendar, it's like got plenty different colors that represent what my values are. Those are 3 things that I'll say. B, thoughts?
I think just the one touch point to that, why it's important to understand your values and your goals, it's so that you can pick the activities to put on your calendar in order of importance based on your values. So a while ago when Emilia and I first became friends, she told me that she really valued family. And we're looking at her calendar.
That's why it's getting clear on your values. Get really clear.
Yeah. I was like, hey, Em, what did you say you really value? And she's like, family. And I'm like, oh, okay. Where are they on your calendar? I see 47,000 other things on your calendar. Where is your family? And she's like, oh, and like I broke her paradigm.
Major oversight.
So the reason for doing this is because if you can understand what's really important to you, you can make and create and optimize the time for it. The thing is, we all only have 24 hours in a day. If we're playing the long game like Emilia and I are, you're sleeping at least 8. Right? I'm sorry. Anyone who tells you sleep is not important, cancel them. Like, I'm sorry. I don't follow cancel culture, but cancel them because they're not helping you with your brain. So you need at least 8 hours of sleep every night, 6 hours of REM sleep. And Emilia and I both track that. Again, it's on our calendar because we prioritize it. So you have 16 hours in a day. What are you allocating that time to? Most of us feel like we need more time in the day, but it's because we are spending our time in unintelligent ways rather than investing our time into the things that are most important to us. So the reason to understand your values and the reason to understand your goals is so that you can break them up into what are the most important things that I want to put into my week, and then putting that on your calendar. And then once you do that, leave open space for whatever else it is that you want. But you create the time for the things that are important to you, and you spend the rest of the time on whatever else.
Beautifully said. Thank you for kind of pulling that all together. So yeah, I'm realizing that like I thought this episode was actually going to go better than I'm realizing it has right now, which is totally okay because it's 1% improvement over time. And at the end of the day, like I have literally like a solid 17 years at least of hardcore mastery around this calendar optimization, time management, time investment, all that jazz. And this has become an unconscious competency of mine. So I'm actually doing team trainings with all of this stuff around calendar hygiene, calendar management, all that stuff. So I'm excited. Shout out to Evolve Team. But as we kind of wrap this episode up with respects to getting clear on what that biggest hack to a productive week is, it's getting clear on your values, getting clear on your goals, and getting clear on what colors get you excited for working towards that. Short and simple, short and sweet. We're grateful that you joined us in this episode. B, any thoughts in terms of final takeaway?
I know a lot of people don't want to use a calendar, and I've heard a lot of people say this because they feel it's restrictive, but investing the time into scheduling your life gives you the freedom to do all of the things that you've always wanted to do, but have convinced yourself you don't have the time for.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. My episode suggestion for our listeners is actually when Bianca and I were talking about this whole like prioritization and productivity hacks and all that jazz. So we go deeper into this in episode 101, Optimization Basics when you don't have time, which is a critical episode for anyone who does want to continue to hack away at productivity.
Mine is 102, optimizing for wow, that was not a word. Evolved performance. Oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We hope this was helpful. I apologize if my cackle burned a hole in your ears, but you know, we got to giggle every now and then. So thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you on Thursday. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.